So, finally, I can invite to the stage Alberto Marti to give his closing remarks.
Great, thank you. I'll use these ones here. I will be very short, don't worry. So first of all, like last year, thank you very much for staying. I mean, it's always a challenge. We have this very demanding couple of days, a very packed agenda with a lot of discussions and panels and presentations. So thank you for the ones that survive until the very end of the event. So first thing I have wanted to show to you is a love message. Some of you have already seen this, but just as a reminder.
We want the entire world to be running on American artificial intelligence stack. That is our cloud.
Let me see if
Our chips. We want the entire world.
I will use. Let's see if it works.
We want the entire world to be running on American.
Can you hear that?
That is our cloud.
No.
Our chips.
This is I'm not used to the Mac stuff.
Speaker output. No, not so.
It's probably on the.
Shit, let me see. Because it worked for the. Yeah, I don't know. Because can maybe.
It's the HDMI exit sound.
Yeah.
Yes. Sound, yes. You click there, and now you have no speaker. Maybe this one. You make a test?
Let's try.
We want the entire world to be running on American artificial intelligence stack. That is our cloud, our chips, our algorithms. All of that needs to be exported and packaged to the world so that we become the ecosystem of choice globally.
Okay, so that was just a quick. We can switch off this. Okay. It's a very short message that was published a couple of months ago. By one of the advisors to the White House, and I think it summarizes very well what the kind of stuff we are facing right now. So we are facing a very aggressive U.S. administration. We are facing a very aggressive tactics from U.S. hyperscalers, but also from big tech. And when we launched this project a couple of years ago, the CSA, this is the third edition of the Nexus Forum Summit. The original idea was to create a forum for different communities that normally work separately, the Cloud Alliance with its own kind of requirements to join, the IPSci Cloud, also slightly secretive and very, very close club as well to the members that are part of the project, and then the Horizon Europe projects that even within the same companies, sometimes the research and innovation projects tend to be isolated from the rest of the companies. So we wanted to create this meeting point where everyone working in this area of cloud and edge computing had an opportunity to meet each other, sometimes even meeting colleagues from the same companies but are working in different divisions and share what they are actually doing in terms of technological results. So the first edition, as you know, we organized that before the CSA was officially approved. We've been running the CSA for a couple of years. And then our commitment is that whatever happens next year, we will keep running this event in the future. I think if you guys agree, it's a useful meeting point once a year for people that already know each other. We collaborate in a number of projects, but especially for new people, new companies that are getting right now really scared about what we're hearing from across the Atlantic and obviously what is happening in China, and are actually looking for some reference, some place where they can actually meet some other kind of some other people in industry and research that thinks in the people that think in the same way. I think one of the really the nice things I like about the Nexus Forum and the group that we are creating here, and as many of you already know, we are creating this kind of stable group of people that Chris becomes increasingly larger over time, is that we share some vision about the problems that we have, some of the solutions as well. And the very important thing for me, and it's linked with what we discussed yesterday with my member states, is to make sure that people that have these concerns in individual companies and organizations, they know that they are not alone in these concerns. So it's not just an individual feeling that you think there's something wrong here, I don't feel comfortable with the situation, or I feel many different levels might be concerned about how things are going in the tech world. For them to know that they are not alone, that there are other people in other companies and organizations with these same concerns, and we are trying to mobilize all these concerns in a positive way, constructive way, to build an alternative in Europe. So, I want the final session to be very quick but also interactive. So I have a couple of questions that will invite you to answer before we leave. Some of you wants to volunteer. One of them is a main challenge. What do you think is one of the main challenges that we have in Europe in terms of achieving, in practical terms, digital sovereignty? And I will give you my take on that. One of the main challenges, in my opinion, is the many limitations that we see in the large European tech companies to really embrace the concept of sovereignty. They've developed too many dependencies with big tech and with hyperscalers, and it's very difficult for large European tech companies to decouple themselves from these infrastructures and these services. I think that's one of the, from the industry perspective, I think it's one of the big challenges that we have. So we have to convince these companies to do that. And the second question for you is, apart from the one challenge, one action that we can take, one practical, real action, doable action that we can take to work together towards this concept of digital sovereignty. For me, that suggestion will be, we might have to start thinking about creating a European infrastructure for open source development. So we've mentioned the lack of this infrastructure for test beds and deployments in the research projects. I think it might be good to start thinking about creating some federated infrastructure for maintaining these open source developments beyond the projects, but also to bring and attract developments that are taking place in industry, maybe in a federated way, using some of the resources that, for instance, RTOs have available. And I think in a few days we will be announcing also some initiative in that sense from the colleagues at RISE. So, very quick, any volunteers? One challenge, one main practical action we can take.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think one challenge, which I think it also connects to what you said, is that if a company wants to do something, it's very easy to find consultants that are experts in in the service ecosystems of the hyperscalers. So it's very easy, you do some procurement or whatever, you buy a service, then you use that service because the consultants know this. And this is not that easy for European services. And something concrete that could be done is, I think, we're hearing a lot about these investments in, AI factories, AI gigafactories, and yes, it's good. Also, we need to make sure that we balance the investments in hardware with these challenges of creating service bundles that are easy to use and that are attractive, because otherwise companies will not use that instead of using hyperscaler services, I think. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. One challenge, one action. Paolo, I see you moving your head. Go for it. We'll take 3 or 4 and then we go for coffee. I want to listen to your ideas.
You know, I'll try. I mean, there are so many thoughts going around and trying to get the probably the easiest one, and some of them that actually annoy me in a way. One of the challenges probably is actually to having a so institution, probably all of us, so to lead by example. So actually trying to get various institutions. I mean, this has been already said several times to actually say, okay, if you want to make this ecosystem grow, we got to show that there is a demand, and probably the demand should start actually from institution, government, public sector in general. This is a common thing. It should be the obvious thing, and that is a challenge that we haven't, sorted out yet.
So having European, public administrations becoming the early adopters of what we do, right?
Yeah. Well, it's not even the matter of being early adopters, because now we can see that the technologies are viable, are there. We have several use cases where we see, well, the latest one, the biggest one that comes to mind is probably Schleswig-Holstein, where, public sector administration migrated 40,000 users into open source platform is doable. Even the European Commission, similar number of users, well, why not? That would be absolutely nice. So it's still a challenge. It may happen slowly. Things will change, but that surely will help the situation. And yeah, the other interesting thing that should be done is also, as has been mentioned already, so providing the infrastructure for people to migrate to. So private sector should help, also combining the solutions that are actually already available and put them on the market. But then we should have even academic institution saying, okay, we have all these people trying to create interesting projects, developing new solutions. Let's give them the infrastructure with which they can play with. I had the same issue in Luxembourg, just to mention a place, where I see the technology incubators that were not doing that. So the only thing that we'll do is just to say, okay, we got some free vouchers from Amazon, play around with that. It'll be nice actually to create the infrastructure to play around with.
Okay, our own infrastructure, yeah. Andrew. One main challenge, one doable action.
Yeah, I was trying to let non-consortium members have a say, but there seems to be a limited number of people wanting to speak, so I'll jump in. I think one challenge is, following on from Thomas's, it's not just the consultants. There's an issue with the advertising budgets of the hyperscalers, in that Microsoft aggressively, and has always aggressively, sold MS Office. Every time they make a sale, they have a virtuous circle. If I can say anything is virtuous about Microsoft, they have an economic virtuous circle of, they make a sale, they justify having a sales force because they make profit on that sale. The Document Foundation doesn't have that because they don't get seat license fees. And so there is a problem in not the model of the Document Foundation, but the fact that they can't aggressively sell the same way that the hyperscalers do, because they don't get the virtuous economic circle that goes to that. So I think that's a challenge that we need to face in the open source. A concrete action we could take, again, so riffing off the previous comment about institutions, America has itself people who promote open source. There is, on the academic side, a group called Invest in Open. And I'm wondering why we don't have a European equivalent of that. That is a group which is promoting the adoption of FLOSS and open protocols in the academic and research sector in the US. We don't have an equivalent in Europe, and we need one. So creating one of those, again, it adds up with the public sector, it adds up with the education sector. We need these groups which are promoting these sectors, particularly which don't have the profit to invest and which we know are under financial pressure. academia could make huge strides by adopting open infrastructure for research and for teaching purposes. But again, they're sold on the professional ones. Nobody ever got fired for buying AWS. Nobody ever got fired for buying Blackboard, but somebody did get fired for adopting Moodle. If it doesn't work properly in Moodle, they get fired for choosing it. If it's a problem with Blackboard, they work with Blackboard to solve it.
Matthias. Yeah.
Well, for me, one challenge is that we are looking so much into the public sector as the problem solver. Usually, people think public administration is slow, isn't the early adopter. But in that case, we now think that public administration will solve our problems. And well, I think that's maybe not the right direction, and I see this as a challenge to focus too much on them to help us out of this situation. And somehow, I think it's really important to also stick on our own nose and see what we are using. In the 2 days, I saw only Microsoft and Google products here on the screens. So, yeah, it's the question, who should start? Is it really the public administration? So I think we need to define broader initiatives. And that's what I like with Christina Caffarra and Eurostec, that she always says industry must start. I mean, it's not only the industry, I would also like the public sector to move, but I am not sure if they're really a first mover.
Great. Point taken about the Microsoft and the Google stuff.
No, I think it's very important to focus on what is exactly somehow preventing the change sometimes when the alternatives are available, or what could be done to accelerate or to facilitate or to convince those that can change to change in something else. Huh? I think there should be more effort on that to make it more easy to understand the advantages and of course, above all, to make much easier to drive the change. The migration from one platform to another, from one approach to another approach, from one technology to another technology, from Word to LibreOffice or these kind of things. Huh? We should do more on that, probably.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. We can continue on the coffee during the coffee break. Well, the coffee farewell, right? It's not really a break. So, just very, very final words from my side. So, I mean, I just want you all to reflect a bit on. Yes, there are a lot of challenges. There are many things that we could be doing ourselves. We could be asking others to do. I just want you guys to reflect for a second on the many things that the people, I mean, you guys and the people around you in this room are actually doing in practical terms. So if you think about it, people in this room are some of the main partners in the IPSI cloud. Some of you are leading for the first time the definition of what a sovereign cloud means in Europe. Several of you are involved in some of the edge-cutting research on cloud and edge computing that will help products in the future for industry. Some of you are involved in actually connecting the technologies that are emerging in Europe with the technologies that industry will need in a few years' time, and the other way around. So we're using the architecture of the IPSI to facilitate this. Many of you are also involved in helping the Commission adapt their policies to what we need in industry and in the research ecosystem. So you think about it, we have a huge potential. And I know, for instance, that sometimes we are constantly bombarded with this message that it is too late for Europe to do things. It is all resistance is futile. But if you really think about mobilizing the capacity that we have to mobilize great minds and great companies and organizations in Europe, I think we still have a hope. So keep the hope alive. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alberto.